The engine break-in went pretty good. I'm very happy with rotation on all my push rods. We're going to pull the valley pan off. I have to reload my inner springs on all the valves, and I wanted to check the lifters just to make sure I don't have any weird signs. I don't think I'm seeing anything wrong. I think we're in good shape. Looking pretty good. No major debris. Let's pull our lifters out, take a look at them, see if they look good. This is the one that it ate last time. Got a nice circular pattern on it. That's good. Looks good. I think we got a winner. Look at that, flat tappet cams. They can still be built. This is a comp cams lifter and camshaft set. Now I did remove the inner springs to reduce my spring pressure for the break-in. So now we're going to reinstall those springs. Beep beep. I am happy. The last one I had 3 lifters that had weird wear on them, and one was completely destroyed. Rock and roll. I'm very happy with this. This is still hot for me running it like 10 minutes ago. Well, probably an hour ago. I'm real happy. We got good lifter faces on all of them. So our cam and lifter break-in's good. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall my inner springs, and then we will put the valley pan on with a new gasket, intake on with a new gasket. And I'm actually going to flip this over and work on the oil pan a little bit. I had a couple small oil leaks coming out of the oil pan. One was my fault in the back because they say to use a reinforcement plate with the with that silicone gasket, and I didn't have it here at that time. It'll be here hopefully tomorrow. And I'm going to rework the pan surface to make sure I have a nice flat surface. I must have had a distortion on the front of the pan. So luckily I ran it out of the car and didn't have that problem in the car, because then I'd be pulling the thing back out again, which is exactly why we run these, or at least we are going to run our engines outside of the car before we reinstall them, because honestly I'm just too old to be slinging these things over fenders multiple times. Alright, let me pop out my spark plugs. I will start switching out inner springs. We'll put the top end back together. Awesome. Good news. All of my inner springs are reinstalled, so now we have full spring pressure on our valves, so this thing can be driven. So I'm going to put my tins, well, I'm going to put my push rods, my rocker arms, my tin, my intake, and my valve covers on, and then I'm going to flip this over. We're going to pull the oil pan off because I've got a couple adjustments to make under there. My dipstick tube doesn't read correctly, and I have a couple small oil leaks coming from the oil pan. So we're going to resolve those while I have it out of the car, hopefully. Well, I ended up making some adjustments to my dipstick. My mid tube I actually drove farther into the block because it wasn't in far enough. Then I reinstalled my lower, and I actually gave it a little more down angle so that it should read a little better. Because if you look at the bottom of the engine, I guess that would be a little more horizontal. My low point's there, my full point's there. When it runs, it'll be dropping down. So I should have a better read on my stiletto dipstick measuring device. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to pop a cap off, take a look just to see, because I'm curious like that. And why not? Since I have the pan off. Pretty good. Got one little mark in it. It's just starting to take the face cover off. Not too bad. So you had one little stripe of dirt go through it. Not horrible. I got to straighten out my oil pan gasket surface since I had a couple small leaks from that. Not a big deal, but we'll make it happen. That one doesn't look great. Well, it's kind of embarrassing to say this, but I'm not happy with the results. Apparently there was some trash in the oil valley, or the oil galley, because basically as soon as I fired this thing up and ran it for 20 minutes, my bearings were damaged. So I'm going to cut the oil filter open real quick. We'll take a look at that, and then I'm going to disassemble this engine again. I'm probably going to just have to take it down to the bare block, clean it, pull the galley plugs, clean the galleys, and then put it back together. The good news is the cam broke in fine, so I'm not seeing any damage there, but I got to figure out if it was overlook on my part of residual trash in the engine from the cam failure. You would think it would have gotten picked up by the filter and the magnets I had on the filter. But, you know, you can't control that. I know a lot of guys that just throw stuff together and it always works for them. I'm not that guy. My luck is more of the, if there's anything but bad luck, there's bad luck. So we're going to do this again. Let me cut this filter open. Got a little GNR playing in the background. Help me with my sorrows. Oh, missed. It's okay, the bench needs some lube too. Ouch. There's really not any trash in my filter at all. So I think all that damage was caused by residual stuff in the galleys. Alright, well, that's what I wanted to know. That looks pretty good. So in the future, I'm probably going to just take these things completely apart and go through them. That way I can ensure my cleanliness. Because somehow I ended up with some trash going through some rod bearings, and I don't like the way they look. So I ended up pulling off all the rod caps. I have one left to do. That's number 8. And that's the thing, if the engine galleys aren't scrubbed completely clean after a camshaft failure, you can end up with bearing failures. That one's got a couple of light scuffs, but nothing I'm worried about. It's probably just the that bearing looks fine. It's just the top coating wearing in. But number 2 and number 5 were the worst, had the worst scuffing to them, so some trash went down through the galley and got into the bearings. I didn't really need to replace one, but I did. I replaced 2 and 3. I replaced 5 and 7. So we're going to put it back together, run it, and I think it's going to be good to go. We're clean. There's nothing questionable that I'm worried about at this point. So let's get my oil pan. So let's get my oil pan put back together on this thing, and we'll run it on the test stand for probably a half hour to an hour. Make sure we don't have any oil leaks. And if we don't have any oil leaks, it's going back in the car. Finally, a win. This one's been pretty painful, but it does kind of help you see the mechanics side of how much work goes into making an engine rebuild happen, and how easily this job can go from profitable to not profitable with like just a little bit of dirt in there, and it can wreck the whole thing. So let me torque this main cap down and this rod cap down before I forget, because that's happened before. We are running this engine in on the engine stand one more time to check for oil leaks. I think I have all my oil leaks resolved, but we're going to run it and find out. And then we finally get to put this thing back in the car, which is going to be a very good day for me when I'm done with this project. It has kind of eaten me alive. But sometimes that's the world, you know? Sometimes you're shooting a fish in a barrel. Sometimes you are the fish in the barrel. Most recently, I have been the fish in the barrel. Oh well. Keep moving and get it done. I think I have everything hooked up. I'm going to give it a power to my HEI distributor. We're going to kick this thing in the guts and see what happens. Hand position's good. Radiator's full. I've got 5. I've only got 5 quarts in there. This Pontiac engine actually calls for 6 quarts. And now that I have adjusted my dipstick in the oil pan because it was reading considerably off, it looks like it's reading spot on now. It was a mixture of the middle dipstick tube not being driven in far enough, and I had to rotate the lower dipstick down a little bit. I'm right where I want to be. I'm going to drop 1 more quart of oil in this. That way I have 6 quarts. And honestly, it's pretty much, I've already done a round of break-in oil. I've got the high zinc Lucas oil in it now. I'm going to put 1 quart of the BR40 from driven in it. And then that'll be basically just run in the car until the next oil change. So I did add my inner valve springs back onto the system, so those are in. And because I have more pressure on my lifters, I'm actually going to do the whole break-in process again just to be safe. Basically 20 minutes. 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM. I know my cooling system's working because it worked the last time, so I don't have any worries about overheating. This thing's got 4 gallons of fluid in it. It's actually a rather large cooling system. Super. Yada. Well, that was a good half-hour run-in. My oil pressure looks great. I think we are in the clear. Don't appear to have any oil leaks. So that's a success. She sounds great. I think I'm going to put her back in the car. Finally happy with how it's operating on the stand. Got really good oil pressure. Got nice quick pop-offs when I start it up. No abnormal noises. So the camshaft's all back together. The engine's all back together. A couple minor mistakes that I did, and I took care of those. It is what it is. Sometimes when you do stuff, you have a mistake and you do it again. It's just the way it is. The customer's not paying for my mistakes. He's paying for the initial repair, but not the subsequent repairs that I had to do because the camshaft failed. It wasn't his fault. Actually, the cam failure I don't think was my fault either, but it doesn't matter. It's got to be fixed. So it is what it is, man. You take it apart, you do it again, you make it, fix it, and then you move on to the next one. So I will be really happy to have this one in my rearview mirror. I'm trying to get it done this week. Next week's a short week. Merry Christmas to you all if we don't see you. It is that time of year. I'm going to pop this fan off so I don't mess it up. Putting it back in the car. And it's time to drop this thing back in its home, back between the rails. For the last time, I hope. Distributor's actually in and locked down. I'm going to pop the cap off so that I don't bang it against the firewall. But I can leave the distributor in, so really just hooking up the wires and hoses, bolts and such, and it'll be ready to fire. So that's pretty good. Well, I think that's probably where we're going to leave off with this episode of What's Rich Doing in the Shop today. Trying to wrap up the Firebird. That's what I'm trying to do. Work. It's not overweight enough. Alright. Let's get this thing on the gantry and let's get between the rails. Thanks for watching. Click like, subscribe, leave us a comment below. Have a great day.